guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today we are back with another recent reads. So these are all of the books that I have read in the month of October. Now, before I got all these books together so that I could tell you guys about them, I was under the impression that I had a pretty good reading month. But upon further reflection, after I'm looking at some of these, I didn't like quite a few of these. And some of these, I was surprised that I didn't like them as much as I was hoping that I would. So of course, I have a couple of DNFs. I do have quite a few 3-star reads. I do have one 5-star read, and if you guys have been following my videos, and you probably already know what that book is. And then I have a couple 4 stars and then a couple 2 stars. So we will go ahead and start with my DNFs. So the first book that I unfortunately DNF'd, this is A Murder for Miss Hortense by Mel Pennant. This is a adult mystery, and I think it's supposed to lean more towards a cozy mystery. So for this book, I had a whole reading vlog planned because this book came with something very unique. And it's unique to me because I hadn't seen anything like this before. And with this book, I got like these envelopes, and in each envelope, it's telling you to read to a certain page, and then you're supposed to like guess who the suspects are in this murder that took place in the story. And specifically, you got like 8 suspect cards. It had a different suspect. It had their name, their occupation, the connection to the victim. And then after so many chapters, I was supposed to be able to make my guess, put this in like my guess in another envelope, and then read some more pages, and then figure out who actually did it, and then determine whether or not I was correct. And I was really excited about that because I just thought it was gonna make for a really good reading vlog, but I could not get past 36 pages. I'm pretty sure it was 36. Yeah, I stopped about 36 pages in. So this follows this woman, Miss Hortense. And she was a part of this group that was called the Partner Group. And what I have come to realize is there is another name for it, but they call it Partner. Basically, you get a group of people together and they all put money into like a pot. And I guess they continuously do it. And then when one of the people need the money for whatever situation arises, then they are able to use the money in the pot, and then everybody starts saving again. So it's basically a way for you to save money. So she was a part of this group. She got kicked out of the group, and one of the people that was in the group, she was like the banker, so the person that was in charge of the money, she is found dead, and another member of the group believes that she was actually murdered. So Miss Hortense is trying to figure that out. In 36 pages, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little confused. There were a lot of characters that were thrown at you. Also, the timeline was jumping all over the place. Then on top of that, I was just a little bored. And something that really bothered me was the dialect in here, because our main character is Jamaican. I think all of them are Jamaican, but they live in London, I think. And so the dialect for their dialogue was really hard to read and try to understand. And so I just could not force myself to read any further. So I decided to unfortunately DNF this one. The next book that I DNF'd is Kill Your Darlings by Peter Swanson. This is a adult thriller, although it did not read like a thriller. And to be honest, I was a little hesitant going into this because I have not had the best luck with this author. Previously, I read 9 Lives, hated it. Then I read 8 Perfect Murders, and that was okay. I think I really missed the hype for that one. So I don't know, I just didn't enjoy it as much as everybody else seemed to. And then I decided to pick this one up, and this one did not work for me either. It has a really cool premise. So we're following this married couple, Wendy and Tom. And basically, you are getting the story told in reverse. So we know that there's a situation that takes place between the two of them in the very beginning. And then the story moves backwards. So it starts with like 2023, and then the years just go down from there. So from like 2023 to 2013, so on and so forth. And you're trying to get what things led up to this particular situation in 2023. I found this story to be really dull. I did not like either of the characters. The situation that happened, I wasn't like, I guess, shocked by it. I wasn't like, oh my God, I can't wait to see what happens. I didn't feel that way. I don't really have much to say. I only got 86 pages into it. I think I would have been able to stick with this a little bit more if I would have liked either one of the characters, but they weren't very likable. And when you find out what that situation was, I'm just not surprised. I'm not surprised that that's where they ended up. And I don't know. I don't feel like this book was worth me trying to get to, I want to say the end, but I guess in their situation, it would be the beginning of their relationship. And I also listened to this on audio, and I just felt like the narrator for this, it was actually a guy that was narrating. His voice was kind of dull. And so it just wasn't keeping my attention. Anytime I was trying to listen to it, my mind would just start to wander. So I had to put this down. And I almost want to say that Peter Swanson just might not be the author for me because none of his books have blown me away. However, I do plan to give him one more shot. There's one book that I have on my Kindle that I really want to read by him because everybody seems to really love that book by him, and that is The Kind Worth Killing. So I do think I'm going to give that a shot. If that doesn't work for me, I don't think I will pick up anything else from Peter Swanson. So I have 4 2-star reads. I normally don't have that many 2-star reads, but some of these just were not good. So we're going to start with the one that I really think I was really generous with my rating. And that is The Hunting Wives by May Cobb. Now, this wasn't a book that I necessarily wanted to pick up. I only decided to read it because I was interested in the show that is on Netflix. I have a couple of friends that said they really enjoyed the show. And then one of my friends that enjoyed the show said she really enjoyed the book. So she recommended that I read it. So this one, obviously, I gave it 2 stars. But if you have not heard of The Hunting Wives, this one follows our main character, Sophie. Sophie and her husband, Graham, has just moved back to Texas. And it's her husband and their child. And she is trying to make friends. And she becomes really intrigued with this group of women, specifically this one lady named Margot. And so here and there at like social events, they would kind of bump into each other. And one day, Margot in the group decides to invite Sophie to their group that's called the Hunting Wives. And basically they get together on Fridays and they go out in the field and they shoot at targets, but they also do some other stuff. So Sophie actually ends up getting wrapped up in with this group and all their shenanigans. At some point, somebody goes missing, and then Sophie is questioned, and then the story just kind of goes off from there. I did not like this book. I think 2 stars is generous. The more I think about this book, the more I do not like it. I did not like Sophie as a character. Matter of fact, I didn't like any of these characters because they all felt so childish. These are supposed to be women in their like 30s. They're married. They have children. Some of their children are like high school students. So these characters just felt so young to me. And then I just did not understand Sophie's fascination with Margot at all. Now, it is told to us a lot that Sophie is actually really attracted to Margot. Like, she talks about it all the time. And outside of her attraction, I just don't understand, like, what her fascination is with Margot. Like, what is it? It has to be something else about this woman that you are just low-key obsessed with her. And I wish that we could have gotten something more than she's just physically attracted to her for me to buy into this obsession, because I just didn't get it. And going back to them being childish, there was this one scene in there with some of the characters playing spin the bottle, and at that point I was just like, what are we doing? Like, I don't get it. And it was about, it had to be like 60% of the way in before the mystery even kicked off, before this person went missing. And once that happened, it was very predictable. If you've read a thriller, you probably know where this is going to go. There was only one thing that happened that I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming, which is why I believe at the time I gave it 2 stars. But I actually think this probably deserves a 1 star because I just did not care about this book at all. At a certain point, I did listen to it on audio. I think I was like hate listening to it. I just had to see where this was going. Now, since I have listened to it, I'm actually not that excited to watch the show. My friend told me to still check out the show, but I just have no desire. I do not care to see Sophie being obsessed with Margot. I didn't like it in the book, and I for some reason, I just don't think I'm gonna like it in the show. But if you've seen the show, if you've seen Hunting Wives, please let me know whether it is something that is worth the watch. Otherwise, at this point, I think I'm just gonna skip it. My next 2-star read that I have is The Missing Half by Ashley Flowers. This is another adult mystery thriller. And if you are not familiar with Ashley Flowers, she is a podcast host on a really popular true crime podcast called Crime Junkies. I actually started listening to it when it first came out, like before podcasts and true crime podcasts really became popular. I was listening to that. And so this is her 2nd book, and I have been really wanting to check out something from her, and Libro FM had this as a advanced listener copy, so I went ahead and picked it up from there. So in this, we're following this girl, Nick, and years before, her sister had went missing. Nick never really got over it because nobody ever found out what happened to her sister. So one day, she is randomly approached by this other woman, I think her name was Jenna, and Jenna's sister had actually went missing around the same time that Nick's sister did. So they end up working together to try to actually finally figure out what happened to their sisters, and they come across some new information that they weren't privy to before, and the story just kind of takes off from there. This was fine. I don't think that it did anything unique or extraordinary. Nothing about it blew my mind. It did keep me interested enough to obviously finish it, but the characters' decisions on some things really did not make sense to me. And then the big twist that we had in this book is a twist that I've seen done before. And not only have I seen it done before, I've seen it done better. So overall, this one was just fine. It just wasn't anything that blew me out of the water. And yet another 2-star read, we have Forget Me Not by Stacey Willingham. This is marketed as a thriller, an adult thriller. This is not bad. I would say this is a mystery at best, and it is a really, really, really slow burn mystery at that. So in this one, I forgot her name, we are following Claire. This is another woman whose sister has gone missing years before. And again, Claire has not been able to get over the situation. So Claire has also hit a really hard spot. I believe she quit her job because she was upset that she didn't get a promotion that she felt like she deserved. And so she has been struggling as a freelance writer. And so her mother ends up injuring herself. So she goes back to her hometown. But while she's there, she ends up getting a job at the same place that her sister had worked at before she went missing. So while she's there, she starts to kind of question what actually happened to her sister. She finds this diary, this like really old diary that kind of gives some insight into what possibly happened to her sister. And that's basically the story. I didn't necessarily hate this, but I also didn't really like it. It was so slow. The only thing I will say that kept me going was those journal entries. I thought that situation was really interesting, but otherwise, this just didn't do anything new. As you can tell, this is kind of the same plot as the last book I just told you about. So it just didn't do anything that blew me away. The twist at the end wasn't really shocking. It didn't leave my mouth hanging open. This just didn't do anything for me, and unfortunately, I'm not sure Stacey Willingham is probably the author for me either. Her first 2 books I really enjoyed, and then the book she came out with last year was really slow as well. And then this book is also really slow. And if that is the type of stories that she is starting to tell, I just don't think they are going to be for me. Okay, my last 2-star read, we have Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. And to be honest, I didn't really have any expectations going into this because I've read 2 other books by T. Kingfisher. The first one was Nettle and Bone. Really enjoyed that one. Then I had a arc of Thorn Edge, which came out a couple years ago. And I thought that one was fine. It didn't blow me out of the water. So when I saw this one and it was a Snow White retelling, I decided to pick it up, especially because I thought it would fit the fall vibes. So this is a Snow White retelling, so it's adult fantasy. And so this is being told from a different POV than Snow White. So we're following this healer named Anya, and she is really into poison. She likes to study poisons, and she likes to come up with antidotes to poisons. And so one day, Snow's father, in this book, Snow is only 12 years old, Snow's father, the king, reaches out to Anya and says that he believes Snow is being poisoned, and he wants her to come out to Snow and figure out what she's being poisoned with and to help her. So Anya goes out there and she discovers something else is going on besides Snow just being poisoned, and the story just kind of goes from there. The reason why I rated this one 2 stars is because I felt like it was really boring. I did like the elements that it took from Snow White, like the use of the apples, the use of the mirror. I actually like that we got this story told from Anya's perspective and not Snow's, and that was about it. Other than that, I didn't really care for Anya as a character. Her inner monologues were so long and so drawn out, and her just thinking through every step of the way was just so slow. And then there was this unnecessary romance subplot that moved extremely fast, because mind you, she was only out there for a couple of days. So the fact that I just told you that there was a romance subplot, it was moving too fast. And I don't know. I listened to this on audio. I probably did a disservice to myself, because the person that narrated this, her voice was so monotone. There was hardly like any inflections. I don't know. This just did not work for me. And I'm actually kind of sad about it, because I was hoping to at least enjoy it, and it just felt like a chore to get through. I got this from Libby, and so you can check them out for 2 weeks at a time. And I was down to the last couple of hours before I had to return this. That's how long it was taking me to get through it. Yeah, this just did not work for me. Now we are going to be moving into my 3-star reads. 3 of them I actually already read in a 24-hour reading blog, so I won't spend a lot of time on them here. But the first one that I read for that 24-hour reading blog was The Root by Alan Baxter. And basically this is a adult horror, and it is about a 7-foot-tall killer kangaroo. So we're in this like small town in Australia, and this kangaroo is on the loose, and it's basically killing everybody. It's really graphic, it's short, it's straight to the point. If you are looking for something to kind of get you out of a reading slump, and you want something that's kind of like fun and horror, I think this one would definitely work for you. I had a good time with it. The other one I read for that blog is William by Mason Coley. This is a adult psychological horror. So in this one, we're following this engineer named Henry. And Henry is like in the middle of building like this robot that he named William. And he hasn't shown anybody what William looks like, not even his wife, Lily. And so one day, Lily invites some coworkers to the house. Henry decides that this will be a good time to show everybody William. Mind you, William is only like half built. He thinks it's a good time to show them William, and some things happen in that house. The first half of this, I really enjoyed. I really kind of enjoyed getting a look into Henry and Lily's life, because Henry has this, not disease, but he has this phobia where like he can't leave the house. So he's been like secluded into the house. The name of that is escaping me. So he's always just in the house, and he's working on all of these different things, and William is his like project. I liked how AI was used in the story, and I also liked how scary it is. Now, when we got to the second half of the book, I thought the pacing really slowed down, and it took me a little bit to get through the second half. And this book is not even that long. It's not even 300 pages. It's like 200. It's barely 200 pages. And I think the second half, those second 100 pages really took me a little bit to get through. But I will say what saved this book for me is there's a twist in here that I did not see coming and that I really enjoyed. So even though this wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be, I am looking forward to try and check out something else from this author. The last book that I read for that blog is Whispers of the Lake by Shanora Williams. This is an adult thriller. So in this one, we are following our main character, Rose, and Rose has been asked to help look for her ex-best friend. And Rose really doesn't want to because her and her ex-best friend had a falling out, but her ex-best friend's sister was like, please, 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 can you help me locate her because she has never just gone off the grid like this. And so Rose reluctantly decides to help. She finds out that her ex-best friend was staying in this cottage in North Carolina. So she goes to the cottage hoping that she can find some clues into what happened to her. And that's exactly what happened. She finds some clues and then the story kind of takes off from there. This is another one where I really did enjoy the mess that was in this because, whoo, the reason why they are not friends anymore had me clutching my pearls, okay? I really liked the action that we got, especially at the end. It was kind of chaotic, but it was like chaotic in a good way, and it was really, really fast paced. I also like that we got some journal entries in here from the ex-best friend that kind of gives you some insight into like what they were thinking of the events leading up to their disappearance, which was also a little messy. And yeah, I just had a fun time with this. It didn't necessarily blow me away, but I was really invested while I was reading it, and I do want to check out more from this author. Another 3-star read that I have that I also listened to from Libro FM, it was a advanced listener copy. This is The Stranger in Room 6 by Jane Corey. This is a adult mystery. So this book was not what I expected at all. So we are following Belinda, and she is a caretaker at this like nursing home facility, and she ends up striking up a friendship with one of the residents at this nursing home, Mabel, who was also the owner. And so during this friendship that they're striking up, they actually start talking about their past. So this is told in a dual timeline for both of the characters. So we find out through Belinda's story how she ended up working as a caretaker. And long story short, she was convicted of her husband's murder. Now, that is not funny, but the way that it happened, it was kind of funny. I kind of laughed out loud with that whole situation. And she spent 15 years in jail. So a lot of her story is about her time spent in jail and what a time she had. Then we go to Mabel. Mabel is like in her 90s. And so her backstory is how she actually ended up owning this facility. And so it goes back to like the 1940s during like World War II, and where it was like the Nazis and the Germans and how like her and her family were like wrapped up in all that. And so that's those two. And then we get this stranger that's in room 6 at this facility. And they have a POV that pops in and out every so often. And we kind of learn what their purpose is for being there as well. Now, I actually really enjoyed getting the stories for Belinda and Mabel. They were really interesting. Those stories are actually what kept me interested, because if somebody just described this to me, I don't think this would be a story that I would have picked up. Like, it doesn't sound like something that would intrigue me, but their stories were amazing and kind of funny. And the thing that kind of brought this down for me was like the whole stranger. I didn't like their whole situation and how they were tied into everything. I just really didn't care about that. And I thought like that whole situation, it wrapped up kind of weird. I don't know. I didn't really care for the stranger part of it, but their stories were great. And because of that, I actually want to try and pick up something else from this author, because I felt like she wrote really good characters for really good stories, and I need more. My last 3-star read, this is Julie Chan is Dead by Leanne Zhang. And I thought this for sure was going to be a 5-star read based off of how everybody talked about it. Everybody has been raving about this, and you know, it did something. So in this one, we're following Julie. And Julie has a twin sister, but they were like separated when they were really young. Julie was raised, she didn't have the best upbringing. She was raised by her aunt, who's like a scammer. Meanwhile, her twin sister, Chloe, is her name Chloe? Yeah. Chloe was raised in this like wealthy family. Chloe ended up becoming a really popular influencer. And when they got older, Chloe did, she made some content around reuniting with Julie, which never really settled well with Julie, but that was the only time that they kind of like interacted. Well, one day Julie gets this call from Chloe, and basically kind of Chloe sounds like she's in distress. So Julie drives up to New York to find out what was going on with Chloe, what was up with the phone call, and she finds that Chloe is dead. So Julie takes it upon herself, when the police come to get the body, Julie just says that she's Chloe and the dead person is Julie. So basically Julie takes over Chloe's life. So the first half of the story is just that. Julie has stepped into Chloe's influencer lifestyle, and she is starting to make all these social media posts. She's getting wrapped up in like all of these like social media friends, and she's all about getting followers and getting likes and making all this content. She's into stuff that she just wasn't into before. Then the second half does something a little different, and I'm gonna leave it there. The reason why this is only getting 3 stars for me is because I did not like the second half of this book. I thought it went in a direction that kind of felt cheesy. Like, to me, this book feels like it is 2 books into one. The first half and then the second half. And I absolutely loved the first half of the story. And I actually liked Julie as a character. I thought she was hilarious. And I personally like stories about influencer culture and content creators and all of that. Like, I liked the conversations around that, especially because that is something that is so prevalent in our world right now. So I really enjoyed the first half. The second half, I literally could have done without it. I don't even know where I would have wanted this story to go, but I can tell you that the second half is not where I wanted it to go. So yeah, I just have to settle at 3 stars for this one. I am though intrigued to check out something else from this author, but I'm not in a rush. Moving on to my 4-star reads, I have 2 of them. The first one is What Happened to Nina by Dervla, I think it's pronounced Dervla Tiernan. And this is a adult, I'm gonna say adult mystery. And this was something that was not on my radar. I had never heard of this author. I had never heard of this book, but one of my friends was like, oh my gosh, you have to read this book. Now, I could tell very early on what this book took inspiration from. And if you guys are familiar with that really popular true crime case that was like all over the place, it was all over social media, it was all over TikTok, Gabby Petito, and what's his name? Brian Laundrie. If you are familiar with that case, then you probably will know about this book. This story follows Nina. And Nina and Simon went to his parents' house that was like out in the woods somewhere where they could go like hiking. They went hiking. Simon came back and there was no Nina. Simon came back without Nina. And so, of course, Nina's parents have some questions. And so basically we're getting the story from Nina's parents' point of view, so her mother and her stepfather. And then we're getting the story from Simon's parents, his mother and his father. And it's basically them trying to figure out what happened to Nina. Like I said, if you are familiar with that Gabby Petito case, then this book and everything in it, nothing is going to come as a shock to you. But even though I was familiar with that case, I still really enjoyed this book. I think my favorite part of this is that it is just told from the POVs of the parents and just how everybody's thought processes were going and the actions they were taking. And I really felt for Nina's parents and all the trouble they were going through trying to figure out what happened to her. And then I despised Simon's parents, both of them. They are the worst people. But even though I despise them, I still enjoyed getting their POV and seeing them trying to do what they can basically to protect their son. I think this story will make you upset. It definitely made me upset at times, but like I said, it didn't do anything surprising, but I did have a good time while I was listening to this one, and I do want to pick up something else from this author. My last 4-star read, we have When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. This is a adult horror, and I'm not sure what I really expected going into this, but it's definitely not what we got, but I mean that in like the best way. So in this one, we're following we're following this struggling actor, Jess, and she just got off of a really tough shift from her job at the diner. And she comes home and she finds like this little boy in the bushes, and she obviously wants to help him. But all of a sudden, this person who she later finds out is his father comes looking for him, and all hell breaks loose, and basically Jess and this little boy are on the run for their lives. That's all that I'm really gonna say about this, because I honestly think I enjoyed this even more because I just didn't really know what to expect. One of the things that I really liked about this story is that at the heart of this is about both of these characters, Jess and this little boy, who have severe daddy issues for very different reasons, and it's wrapped up in this like fast-paced horror story. It's very gory. There's a lot of killing. There's a lot of action. There's always something going on. At different points of the story, you are kind of getting different POVs from everybody, from Jess, from the boy, from Jess's mom, a police officer, from the dad. So it's a lot going on, but I liked how it all basically came together in this story. I will say, I really enjoy Nat Cassidy's afterword, and how he basically was able to tie together what his intentions were for this book. The only reason why I'm not giving it 5 stars is just because I wasn't really that satisfied with the conclusion. I kind of feel like if we would have gotten something a little bit different, I probably would have given this a 5-star. Outside of this, I really enjoyed this. Now, I have read one other book by this author, and that was Nestlings. I think I read it last year or the year before last, whenever it came out. And I will have to say I was a little bit spoiled for that book, and so it didn't really shock me, I think, in the way that it shocked other people. I think how I was spoiled for that was people was leaving in their reviews what was actually going on in that story. I don't think a lot of people felt like it was a spoiler, but for me it was a spoiler. And for this one, I just don't want to say too much about the plot because, like I mentioned before, I didn't really know much going in, and so I was totally shocked by where the story was actually going. So if you are interested in this, I would say be hesitant with some of the reviews that you read or listen to. And I wouldn't even I guess you could read the synopsis, but I would say try not to read that either. I think you should just go into this totally blind and you will have a good reading experience. Okay, moving on to my final book. This is We Live Here Now by Sarah Pembroke. This is a adult horror. This is my 5-star read. This is a book that I have done a dedicated review for. So if you guys want my full thoughts, I will have that link down below. But in this one, we are following Freddie and Emily. And Emily is recovering from this really nasty accident that she had. It was so bad that she was left in a coma for a few months, and so she is still trying to recuperate. So to help her do that, Freddie and Emily decided that it would be best for them to move to this new house that's on this really big property that's called Larkin Lodge. And of course, as soon as they get to this property, some strange things are happening in this house, specifically to Emily. There are things falling off the shelf and then all of a sudden reappearing on the shelf. She's hearing strange noises. She's seeing things written in the fog on the mirror. She's smelling something strange. There is something that's going on with Emily and Freddie where he's always cold and she's always hot, and so they can't get their body temperatures regulated in this house. So it's a lot going on, but specifically it's happening to Emily. And Freddie is questioning whether or not the things that she is actually experiencing is real, because she's on a lot of medications, and a lot of the medications that she is taking, some of the side effects are hallucinations and paranoia. So we kind of have a bit of an unreliable narrator situation happening. I absolutely love the story. I think this is a perfect haunted house read, because you're not only getting just the creepiness of this house, but you're also getting some insight into Freddie and Emily's relationship and what actually led them there, because these people are kind of toxic. They each have some secrets, and their secrets potentially led them to this house. And the explanation into what happened in this house blew my mind. I did not see that coming. I could not have seen that a mile away. I really love the conclusion of the story. I will definitely be picking up more from Sarah Pembroke. Before I read this, I had only read her most popular book, which was Behind Her Eyes. I actually think I read that earlier this year, and I enjoyed it. I gave that one 4 stars, but this one I really enjoyed. This is perfect for the fall time. So if you guys are still looking for the perfect fall time read, especially if you are into haunted houses, I would definitely suggest you guys pick this one up. That is all that I have for you guys. Any books that I've talked about that are featured in other videos, I will have those videos linked down below. But if you guys have read any of these, please let me know your thoughts down below. And please let me know if you guys suggest that I watch The Hunting Wives, because if you guys tell me I should, I will. But as of right now, I won't. So I will see you guys next time. Bye.